2 years ago, I made a goal to sell 10 units in a single year, whether they were condos or houses. And then this year, now I'm at, I think I'm at 14 or 16. It was incredible to achieve that goal this year. And it just kind of goes back to what I mentioned earlier is consistency, trusting the process, understanding that a lot of these things, when it comes to sales at a high level, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not going to happen overnight. The instant gratification era we live in is something you have to get away from, and you have to put in the work. You have to wait in line. You have to wait your turn. You have to put your reps in, because the $1 million clients that I'm working with now, if I got them 3, 4, 5 years ago, I totally would have dropped the ball, because I wouldn't know what to do with them. I wouldn't know how to work with them, and I wouldn't have the confidence or the experience to properly advise them. Now I can walk into a $1 million house in Lake Forest, and I know exactly what I'm doing in that house, and I know how much we can shave off the price, or whether it's a good house, or maybe we should look next door, and what the comps say, and how the neighborhood is. This is no problem for me now, but you got to work up to it. You got to build your wealth of knowledge. You got to build your Rolodex, your sphere. Things take time. The marketing I built out today in year 5 with Tim, who's the videographer right now, I mean, I couldn't even imagine 5 years ago. It's a dream come true. So, my point with this is you got to trust the process, and a lot of people get off the treadmill before the snowball really starts to snowball. And I think, you just got to understand where you're going and manifest and have visualize what it's going to look like when you're there, and work backwards, how I've always said in my videos, and to become that person you need to be to achieve these goals that you want to cross off your list. Just to end with, I think, a big topic, and probably the thing I'm most proud of is, the last year or two, I've struggled with a large sum of credit card debt from just building this business, being a bachelor, making some poor choices, and ultimately just an expensive lifestyle, being a broker. I think it's very common in my industry or in our industry. I talk to a lot of agents that struggle with $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 in credit card debt or more. And it was freaking me out a lot. I mean, I would feel like I would come to the end of the month and, the rent payments coming up, all the bills would be due, and I felt like I was having these mini panic attacks, and I didn't know what to do. I wasn't sleeping a lot, and I was stressed out at work, and I needed to get a grip on the situation. And so here's kind of the things that I did to tackle this relatively quickly. I gave myself like a 12-month runway, and I did it in 7 months. And the first thing I did was get rid of my biggest expense, which at the time was my rent payment. So I moved back home with my parents. I know that's not a sexy, beautiful idea for most people, but I needed to throttle the spending, and the best way to do that was to sublet my apartment, great thing I'm a broker, and move out as quickly as I could and kind of throttle that payment. And that's what I did first. Secondly, I really couldn't do anything with my car or insurance payment because I need my car for work, and insurance is insurance, so I kind of left those where they were. But I ended up picking a second job up through the winter and into the early spring to kind of just make sure that I was hitting my minimums and getting by. And I realized quickly that hitting my minimum payments wasn't working, because I would spend maybe $1,000 in all my minimum payments, but the interest accrued would come up to about $750, so I really wasn't moving the needle. So what I did was I did a balance transfer and moved some things around so I could, use no interest payments for up to a year on a new card, which, I'm not giving financial advice here, but this was something that I did. And then I just moved to attacking one card at a time, and I would clear one card, and then I'd move on to the next. I'd clear one card, move on to the next. And I would take them, and I would just put them in a drawer in my office, and I wouldn't look at them anymore, because I didn't want to continue to use them. And I switched mostly to a debit card when I was making purchases. And after a while, you start to see that you're denting this debt that you've accumulated. And I would go from, maybe 50 or 60 grand to 45, to 40, to 38, to 30, and I screenshotted all these payments that I made over the last 7 months, because I knew one day I would look back at them and I'd be so proud of myself. I think it was the Monday after my Ironman, so it was the 9th of September, I made my last payment, and it was one of the best days in the last couple of years, I would say, besides that race, where I just felt this tremendous weight get lifted off my shoulders. I think it happens a lot in commission. In the commission industry, a lot of people, you get these big checks, and money comes in and out so fast, and you want to go spend it. You want to go buy maybe a new car or some jewelry. You want to help your family out, or you want to go and take that big vacation. On the second time around doing this, my advice to anyone watching this video is the spigot does not continue to run all the time. Eventually, it will slow down. Eventually, it might even turn off for a little bit. What you do in those few months or in that period of your life is going to be crucial. And if you don't have a nest egg saved up or an emergency fund or something like that, so when you don't have money coming in, you're not just completely bleeding, you're going to put yourself into a serious situation that's going to be incredibly difficult to get out of. One of the number one things bogging down Americans today is credit card debt. It's one of the biggest things holding back Americans today. And if you can eliminate this, if you can tackle this, if you can move the needle, I think you're going to put yourself ahead of a ton of your peers, and you're just going to feel so much better going about your day. I think we grew up thinking it was taboo to talk about money, when in reality it's one of the things that we should talk about most, because getting yourself to financial freedom and out from underneath that boot is an amazing thing. It's a beautiful thing, and I think it's something that all of us can achieve from all walks of life. I don't come from a trust fund or from a silver spoon, and I worked hard to get to where I am today. And I think if you work hard and you work smart and you're frugal and you monitor your situation, you do it yourself as well. You don't need to be making a ton of money to make these things happen. You just need to be smart with your money. At the end of the day, just think wisely and think long term. That would be my advice. That's it with today's update. I appreciate you guys coming back. Today's video was a little bit different. We're going to keep you on your toes moving forward and hopefully bring you guys some awesome content. So thanks for tuning in, and ciao.